Yes, 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 yes. Radiography is only a convenience to detect some trouble in the constitution, whereas exposure to rays is a therapy. And the second method of application is not successful in even a single case in the medical history till today. So there is no question in condemning the radiotherapy at all. If not today, even after 20 years or 30 years, the radiotherapy will be totally condemned as something detrimental and dangerous. It is only sheer ignorance that is permitting radiotherapy. But using the radio, that is ray for a photo, has also its own effects upon constitution, but it is tolerable, and one can have a radio photo when it is absolutely necessary, but a regular and systematic photography should be totally condemned as something nonsense. We can use radiography as a means or as convenience to know something. Rarely it can be used, even then at the cost of some health. That is my personal opinion. No, diet cannot be the cause of such things. It should be something of the on the vital plane, like radioactivity. Yes, and the vaccination is also equally powerful. Yeah, the contributing factor. These two put together make the probability more. No, vaccination may be one of the causes, not all the causes. For example, radioactivity is one of the main causes of the increase of cancer cases in the world. So there are 5 or 6 different factors that are working, and vaccination may be one of the contributing factors. But there should be a ready substitution of a foolproof system like orthodox homeopathy. Unless that is made readily available, it is not good to make a total vacuum of all the vaccinations, because we don't know what happens to the children born to the totally vaccinated parents. Malaria, it is a sure cure. In homeopathy, it is one of the surest things that are cured by homeopathy. So we have transgressed again. Again we are gathering at. Can I start? About the classification of drugs, I have one personal idea which I want to express before you. Those who are inclined to believe it can take it, or those who want to listen to it can reject it. It's only my personal experience and personal idea. But anyhow, I want to make a loud thinking of my personal experience. The classification of drugs into long-acting, short-acting, deep-acting, surface-acting, I think it need not be literally taken according to my experience. I many times find that the so-called short-acting remedies working for a very long time, and so-called surface-acting remedies working very deep into the constitution, and the so-called drugs that are expected to work on a non-miasmic basis, that is those that are not classified under anti-miasmic drugs, are many times killing the miasms permanently. So, for those who are interested in the matter, I wish they pay some more attention about the matter while they are using these drugs, and find for themselves their own estimation and their own experience. I will give you a few examples of my experience about the matter. There was an old lady about 60 years of age who was suffering from a peculiar type of lumbago for a long time, and she never had homeopathy. And after some time she was operated on the lower side of the spine for an ulcer, bone ulcer, and the surgeons found it as a bone cancer, and immediately they closed everything halfway while they are operating, and she was having great pain, incessant night and day after the operation. And it was almost the last stages when the doctors advised that she may have some homeopathic remedies for the amelioration of the pain and a peaceful end. So people knocked at my door at about 2 in the night, and I saw the patient, and then it was just weeping and crying all the 24 hours. Most horrible, unbearable condition. I had nothing to suggest to them except I sent 1 dose of aconite 200C, just only to take a chance, that's all. There was no basis at all for me to select the remedy, except the horrible, unbearable condition of pain. And the dose, after 3 days and 3 nights of suffering, that dose gave her 2 hours good sleep. And then, with great hesitation, I gave aconite 1mc. And then she had a very good relief for 24 hours. No pain at all, no suffering at all. And she had some intake also. And after 24 hours, there was the recurrence of everything. So I repeated. And then there was a total relief of the whole condition for 7 days. And after 7 days, she got everything once again with the same violence. And then I didn't want to repeat the same dilution, because I felt great hesitation to repeat such a drug as aconite, because there is great danger also involved in having a repetition of that drug, especially at that age and stage. Because the dose may bring out any dormant condition of cardiac disturbance and may in all probability cause a cardiac arrest. But I had no other go except that one drug. And a third dose I gave 10 million, 10,000 centesimal. During my 20 years of experience till now, that is the only case where I gave aconite beyond 1,000. Neither before nor after I had an occasion to use aconite in 10,000. And then there was a wonderful relief and amelioration of everything for a total continuous period of 3 months, during which period she had a wonderful recovery also. She began to eat and drink, walk, and attend to her own work. And she performed the marriage of her youngest daughter during those 3 months period. She received all the friends and relatives, and she was walking active in the house. So after 3 months, she had a total recurrence of everything she had. I repeated, there was a total disappearance of everything once again for 4.5 months continuous. So it was a total period of about 11 months. And then she had a total recurrence of everything. And I repeated for no use. And within 30 hours she died. So that was my first experience with a so-called fast-acting remedy. So in the Materia Medica, we find repeatedly the sentence, aconite is a violent fast-acting remedy. And many times its action should be supported by a dose of sulfur. For example, in cases of toothache, etc. And afterwards, I used my experience with aconite with greater reliability about its longer period of action. And I found that it always acted for a longer period than expected, when the situation exactly suited the symptoms of the drug. This is one experience. And another experience with so-called fast-acting remedy was a boy of 26 years went into a violent type of insanity because of the tampering of a situation by the parents. He wanted to marry a particular girl which the parents did not want. About a year period of brooding and internal action ignited the whole situation, and the fellow became a total insane, went into total insanity of a violent nature. And many times he jumped from a height of an unbelievable height, perfectly safe. And he damaged many things and he injured many people. And he was breaking unbreakable metallic articles, and people could not control him. He was brought under those conditions. I was asked to go there and see the fellow. And with some caution, I observed the fellow. And it was a problem to administer any dose, because he will kill any doctor. He was already fed up with the doctors and people of demon craft. Many people were brought for witchcraft to control the fellow, and many doctors were brought, and he was fed up with all this fellow. And he actually bet and kicked some of the fellows also. So no question of administering any medicine to him. And he said he would come out of the house
And he asked me, "Are you not Krishnamacharya?" I said, "Yes." Then he said, "I will come to your house. These fellows are senseless and useless fellows. I don't prefer to live here." So it was my luck that he was kind to me. Immediately I said, "You come away with me." He followed me to my house, and I could convince him to consume one dose of, and within half an hour he slept, and it was a sleep of about 8 hours continuous. After which he got up, and immediately he wanted something to eat, and he had good food. After 30 hours of good behavior, he was taken home and he accepted to go home. And I was waiting to see when to administer the next dose or how to select the next remedy. So after 48 hours again I went to see the fellow. He was polite and he himself welcomed me. And he was himself talking about his health and gave me a good reliable report of his condition. And then again after 48 hours I visited him. Again after 1 week he came to me. I asked him to come the next week. Again he came to me. And for 6 months I waited before I administered the second dose. And many times in the Materia Medica, chamomilla is classed as a short-acting remedy. And it is never classed among the anti-miasmic remedies. And after 6 months, the fellow showed symptoms of recurrence. And even with a drug like Tuya, a fellow shows symptoms of recurrence after 3 months or 4 months or 6 months. A drug like Tuya, which is famous as an anti-miasmic remedy, might have controlled only for about 2 months or 3 months or maximum 6 months. And before he had a complete cure, he would have shown recurrence. So, same thing I found. I repeated chamomilla 50 That was all. The fellow was cured. It was about 6 years ago, and till today the fellow is quite healthy, well behaved, and many times he comes to the clinic and he helps in the clinic. And I used this piece of my experience with chamomilla. Afterwards, he just married normally, but he never wanted to marry the same guy about which he was disputing. Because the dispute was rather psychological than romantic.
Yes,
That is what I understood. Because the fellow had no strong inclination to have a personal fight. He had only the inclination to disagree, that's all. So it stopped. So he was wedded to chamomilla. And afterwards I used this experience, especially in the case of many ladies. Whenever I suspected that the lady is not ready to accept any relief after any remedy, suppose we gave sulfur, she was better. She says it is worse. Or she is not ready to accept that she is better. Then you wait and verify if you are correct. And after verification you are convinced that she is not ready to accept the relief. This is the mental trait I found that suited chamomilla for ladies. And along with this there are 1 or 2 more details of the mental symptoms which I observed. That is a cheap way of bluffing. The fellow slept very happily through the night. Morning she comes to your clinic and says, awful, I had no sleep for the past 3 days. And she eats quite normally at home. She says, God forbids me to eat. So, the food on this planet is a forbidden fruit for her. That is how she reports to you. But wait and verify if it is a bluff. Then it is confirmed once again that it is chamomilla. Then for all such ladies, I gave chamomilla 200 C1 dose. Within 2 weeks, they begin to accept the relief and give us a reliable report of themselves. And in all these cases, a single dose was enough to change the disposition of the mind. And it is really wonderful about chamomilla that I understood such a dimension. And more than about 150 cases are verified till now. And somehow I am convinced that it is a deep-acting anti-miasmic remedy. One more verification here. Action call.
Vous m'avez dit que ça confirme une fois de plus.
No. Arsenicum album. Yes. And not only the mental symptom is cured in all the cases I used, but also her physical condition was cured without any other remedy being administered. That is, whenever I found this mental setup, chamomilla necessarily cured the other symptoms also on the physical and nervous plane. That is my experience about chamomilla. And a third dose I saw was exclusively it is considered as a short-acting remedy. An epileptic boy was brought to us. He was about 80 years of age. We were talking. The mother was sitting on one side and the father was sitting on the other side of the boy. Both of them held each hand of the boy. And when they were reporting about the fellow, within a split second, he could take away the pencil on the table, immediately break it into two and throw it there. So, 3 of us could not detect the fellow taking it and breaking it. That was the speed of the fellow. And after 1 minute, he pulled a glass down, thrown it into the street. And when the parents were looking at the glass, he pulled the book from the table and held it like that. He was doing like that with that. And he was biting the teeth and doing like this. And it was reported that he was having horrible attacks, cries of falling sickness. And since his childhood he was getting epileptic attacks. When he was an infant, they thought that it was infantile convulsion. Only after a certain age they could understand that it was epileptic. I tried to think in terms of tuberculinum, etc. According to the clinical cases given by Kent in his lesser writings. But he was clearly showing a picture of belladonna, and the only disqualification of belladonna was that he was a chronic patient, whereas belladonna was not a chronic remedy. Without any doubt, he was a miasmic patient. Without any doubt, he was a chronic miasmic patient, and he required a deep remedy. But the picture he was showing was typically belladonna and nothing else. So I gave the fellow belladonna 201 dose, and he had no attacks for the next 2.5 months. Previously, he was having, on an average, 2 attacks a week, and then he had a single attack. But I never repeated, because one more attack never means reappearance of symptoms. An epileptic attack is not at all a symptom, just as headache is not at all a symptom. And my long experience with hundreds of epileptic cases shows me that the recurrence of attacks can never be taken as recurrence of symptoms. It is here that many homeopaths go into complication with epileptic patients and asthma patients. When they are inclined to take an attack as a recurrence, they are inclined to repeat the dose or select another remedy when one dose of one remedy is acting, and then the case goes into complication and the cure becomes a problem. This is one subtle aspect I found in the treatment of asthma and epilepsy. Take it as a rule not to take an attack as a recurrence. Recurrence means only recurrence of symptoms. And according to my experience, I never repeated the dose for him. And during the period of about 2 or 3 months, there was a marked change in his behavior. The speed of the hyperactivity decreased. And then after 3 months, there was a worsening of the condition, a recurrence of the mental symptoms. Then I gave him belladonna 10 mg 1 dose. And gradually the fellow improved in his mental condition. And there were only 2 or 3 recurrences of the epileptic attack